Hey, Spencer here from leadingworshipwell.com, back with another worship leader tip of the week. And this week, here's what I want you to focus on, to apply this week, and that is to write a prayer out. A few weeks ago in this series, we talked about writing a speaking transition, and you can kind of view prayers like a speaking transition, but they're a little bit different. So if you need some help just with speaking in general to your church, go back and watch that video about writing a speaking transition. But now I want to talk more specifically about writing a prayer. And this is something that we can improve upon. Maybe you feel comfortable speaking in front of your church, but maybe you don't feel comfortable praying in front of your church. There's some weird switch that seems to be flipped whenever we start to pray in front of our church and we get self-conscious about it. I'm not really sure what that is. It happens to all of us, but we can become more confident in praying for and in front of our church. And the way we do that is by writing it out. Just like you get more comfortable speaking in front of your church with speaking transitions by writing those out and planning them in advance, you can plan your prayers in advance as well. So this week, I want you, if you feel really uncomfortable praying in front of your church, I want you to write a prayer out. Now, here's how I want you to go about it. A few tips to guide this process as you work on writing your prayer out. Number one, think about, okay, where do I pray in my service? Think about, are you going to pray at the beginning to open up worship? That's a great spot to pray. Are you going to pray before the time of giving that you have at your church? If you still have a time of giving at your church and you don't just give online or at a bucket in the back, you probably still pray for your giving, though, during your gathering together. Maybe you're going to pray before your pastor preaches, right? That's always a good spot to pray. Or maybe you are in charge of wrapping things up at the end and you're going to pray. So, where are you praying? Just pick one of those spots and write down a prayer for it. But I don't want to leave you with just write a prayer. Here's how I want you to think about writing down the specific prayer. So now we've identified where we need to pray. Now you want to ask yourself, what am I praying for? General prayers are great. They're fine. They're fantastic. A prayer is a prayer. But we can be more confident, number one, because we know what we're praying for, but also we should be praying specific things. I think all too often, I know I've gotten in this routine many times in my worship leading career where I just have like these standard prayers that I pray over and over and over again, and it could be before the offering, it could be before my pastor's message. I just pray some prayer that is just this rote sort of memorization thing. We can do better than that. I want you to consider, we've identified where we're going to write our prayer, where it needs to fit in our service. Now ask yourself, what are you praying for? Are you praying at the beginning of your service? Well, if you're praying at the beginning of your service, first of all, you don't need to welcome God into this worship space because God is already here. His presence is already living inside each one of us, just a side tangent there. But you can pray that God would work in your time together. You could pray that he would break down barriers that are keeping you from experiencing his presence and the fullness of his goodness. You could pray that in this moment he would increase your focus so that you could focus just on him and let everything else fade away. That would be an example of praying specifically for the opening of your worship service. Or maybe you're going to pray before your pastor comes up to preach. And so you would pray, give us ears to hear the message, give us a heart to believe it, and a mind to understand it, or something along those lines. You see how now we're praying for specific things, and it's not just like, God, you're so good. Thank you for your goodness and your grace and your mercy. You are righteous and perfect, and help us continue to focus on you. Like that would be a fine prayer. Nobody's going to look at you sideways for doing that. But like I said, we want to pray specifically for whatever part of our service we're praying for. And then finally, just to wrap all of this up, Once you write your prayer down, we write that prayer down not so that we just memorize it word for word and then regurgitate it to our church on Sunday morning, but we pray, or we write our prayer down so that we can make it concrete in our mind. It helps you remember what you're going to pray for. And then instead of memorizing word for word, instead of that, now we just identify the main points of what we're praying for. What do I want to pray for at the beginning of our service? I want to pray for focus. I want to pray for barriers to be broken down and transformation to happen. There's a 3-point prayer, and you will kill it this Sunday if you pray those 3 points or whatever's applicable to wherever you are in your service. So there it was. That's your challenge for this week. Take the time to write a prayer for a place where you're going to pray in your service. That's obviously one great way that you can improve your worship leading if you do that this week. But I've also got something else for you. It's called 5 Tips to Instantly Improve Your Worship Leading. It's a free audio training. I'll link it down in the description below. You can grab that. These are just 5 simple things that you can do before you lead this Sunday. They don't take much time. You just have to be aware of them and make the effort to do them, and they will instantly improve your worship leading. So check that out down in the description below. Other than that, thanks so much for joining me. Until I see you in the next video, keep leading worship well.